So just start off by introducing yourself.
Um, well, I'm Kay Bui, and I'm Jacob's grandmother.
Okay. Okay. When were you born?
I was born in May 11, 1956.
And where were you born?
I was born in Cambodia, but our family is Vietnamese. We are North Vietnamese people.
Okay. So what was your family like?
Well, like I said, we are from North, and in 1945, my grandfather used to work for French people, which is from North Vietnam, and we have to go to Cambodia to continuing to work for French people. So we are growing the rubber tree. It means whatever plastic here in the United States is the used to. Most of them is from Vietnam and from Cambodia. So our family went to Cambodia. I mean, my grandparents went to Cambodia to work for French people to grow rubber tree, and that's how we make a living.
So did you ever get to know any of the French people?
I went, yes, because my grandfather worked for French um, people, and I went to school to learn French. I was in the convent to learn French and Vietnamese and Cambodia at the same time. But there's a convent for French people only. But after that, there's a lot of Vietnamese nun join the French. They call French um, convent. So, but I didn't go to French convent. I go to the Vietnamese one.
So what was it like in the convent?
To be honest with you, I miss my grandparents a lot because I don't live with my father, with my parents. I live with my grandparents and my aunt and my sister. But my grandmother always want either my older sister and I to be a nun, and her dream is one day she can see me to go to French to France because her one of her cousin was a priest, and she wanted me to be a nun and to go to France, maybe looking for her cousin one day. So in the convent is, I mean, we have a lot of the girls in the convent, like a student in the convent, like a sister in the convent, a lot of girls. But I always miss home. I mean, we have fun. We go to school. We play ball together and a lot of games together. But deep inside of me, I always miss my family. I want to be with my family. But I have a lot of good time, nice time in the convent with my nun's friend. I have a lot of memory, but I after I grew up, I got out from the convent. I don't want to send any of my kids to go to the convent or seminary. That's why we don't have any. Even though I want to have a priest or a nun in the family, but because I have I can't say that bad memory in the convent, but from being away from my family, I don't want my kids to be away from me. That's why I didn't send any of my children to the convent or to the seminary.
So, like, how old were you whenever you were in the convent?
11 years old.
11 years old.
Very young.
Do you think you had a good childhood?
Not really. Sometimes I have a good childhood. But
I'm sorry.
being away from my parents, I always, looking for my parents. So when I was in the convent, I miss my grandparents. I miss my aunt. I miss my sister. So I don't think I have a good childhood. And I always miss. When I was young, I miss my parents. When I was in the convent, I miss my grandparents. When I came over to United States, I don't really miss Vietnam. But I miss my sister because she left behind in Vietnam, so I always miss my sister. And even though I don't like to be in the convent, but after I left the convent, I started missing my convent friend. And then
It's okay. We don't really have to talk about this anymore if you don't want to.
that's fine. No, whatever you need to interview, you can ask.
It's okay. It's more about what you want to talk about, not what they want to know.
Well, I just I'm just I think my life and my family, we just like jumping from one place to one place, like from north to south, and no, from north to Cambodia, and from Cambodia to Vietnam, and from Vietnam we are here today. I mean, when I look back, I said, wow, that's a journey, and wherever we go, God always protect us. We didn't know where we end up at. Like in Cambodia, right before the war getting bad, or the time getting bad, the Cambodian people start killing the Vietnamese people. We already got out from Cambodia, and in Vietnam it's the same thing. In '75, right before the communists got into Vietnam, took over Vietnam, and it got bad, and we already got out. From Vietnam. So I think that's a blessing. I said, when I look back now, I said that's a blessing that it's just like right after we got out, and things were worse. Thing happened, and our family here in the United States, I got married. My marriage didn't work out really good, but I have to thank God that I'm so blessed to have my kids, all my kids. Even though I lost one of my son, but I'm always blessed with all my kids.
Okay. Okay. In Vietnam, like, what did you do to have fun? Like, play games or go places?
In Vietnam, I mean, in Cambodia and Vietnam is the same thing. We don't have video, and we just play most of the time is chase game. we chase each other and we running around the neighborhood. And I love to run away from the neighborhood. And my grandmother is very protective. She doesn't want me to get away from the house because she's afraid that I'm going to get hurt. She loves us very much, but I said, why? I can't do this and I can't do that. I can't eat the food at the neighbor because she's afraid that people are going to poison us. So I can't eat the neighbors' food, and I can't play too much with the neighborhood kids because she just so afraid that one day somebody going to kidnap us. That's how I love to go into the woods, and pick up woods and pick up mushroom and just chasing each other around. And I just can't do that. Or visit my friend at their house. I can't just go to people's house because my grandmother wouldn't let me. And in Vietnam, I was in the convent most of the time. But at that time, I got like teenagers already, so I don't running around anymore. But I liked to go to school in Vietnam, to be freedom to go to school, not to stay in the convent to go to school. But in Cambodia, I can't say that we are poor people in Cambodia, but my grandparents they had a grocery store, so we have more than what we need. But in Vietnam, we are poor. Without staying in the convent, I don't have the transportation to go to school. So after that, I left the convent. I stayed home and I got a job for a while. And during the time that I went to work, my aunts came to the house, came back home and took my grandparents. But when I went to work, I work around my aunt's family, which it means Vũng Tàu in Vietnam. And she went back home in Bien Hoa and took the whole family, my grandparents and my sister and two of her kids to go to Vũng Tàu to get on the boat. We don't know where we're going. We just get on the boat. And but I didn't have a childhood in Vietnam.
So, would you be comfortable about talking about the boat, or do you want to skip over that?
Well, I mean, I can talk about the boat, but yeah. And my sister planned. She decided not to go with the family because she said I have to say that she's a homebody. She doesn't want to change place or the living area, so she stayed back. We left her. I mean, she decided not to go. So I went down to my uncle's house, which is my aunt's husband. We stayed there. Everybody got on the boat. I stayed back there with my cousin, and I thought we never have a chance to go on the boat with the rest of the people, but I can remember how we get back to the boat. But my cousin and I get on the boat, which is the Ba's stepdaughter. So we got on the boat, and it's a fishing boat. So when we were on the boat, we looked back. It's like at Vũng Tàu, and we look back. They have marine base at Vũng Tàu. When I look back, I saw fire, only fire, because I don't know if the Navy destroyed their base or at that time the communists are already bombed the base that caused the big fire like that. It's it's far away, and I look back. It's just like a woods burning fires. It's a big fire, and it's also popping too. Like um, the gun or the bombings. It's just like start blow up. And we got on the boat, and we got in out to the international water. So we saw a big boat out there waiting for us. I think they knew that we are going to leave Vietnam. So we got on the big boat, but it's thing that had been eating me up for a long time. Not too long ago, I confessed to my aunt that when we were about to get on the boat, I got a rosary with me, and I said, okay, we get on the boat, and I think I'm going to leave everything behind. So I threw my rosary on the boat, and when I grow older, I start missing my rosary that I threw on the boat.
Okay. We can take a break if you want.
Okay.
So, do you remember your life during the war?
Do you know what? I forgot to mention about when we go back to Vietnam in 70. We have to get on the boat on 70 to go back to Vietnam because we are Vietnamese. We can't stay back in Cambodia. So we got on the Navy boat, came back to Vietnam, and we have to live in the camp. I mean, in the refugee camp. So the Vietnamese people are so afraid to come near us because they said, the Cambodian people has a lot of voodoo. They use a lot of voodoo. But yeah, because my aunt got caught from the voodoo from the Cambodian people too. Her husband voodoo her, for the love voodoo. So she fell in love with him, but I think he's just using her because we have the grocery store, and beside at that time, she was young and pretty, and especially she's Vietnamese too, but her husband was a Cambodian, a half Cambodian and half Chinese. He's not that bad looking. He's really handsome, but somehow he's just trying to get my aunts, but my aunts never have any special for him, so he has to try to use the voodoo to get my aunt. So back when we are back in Vietnam, Vietnamese people are so afraid of us, and we lived in the camp for several months, and the Vietnamese government gave us some property to cultivate, but my grandfather was old, and we have no men in the family, so I think my grandparents decided to go back to work for the French people again, which is Bình Long, to work on the rubber industry again. And because my grandfather got retirement from Cambodia we thought that he's going to get his continue to get his retirement again in Vietnam, but he didn't get his retirement, and we lost a whole bunch of money too. I didn't mean to talk bad about French people, but at the time we left Cambodia, French people said that like our boss, my grandfather's boss, say, if anybody has money, just give it to them so they can keep it for us. And so on the way, nobody can rob us. But in Vietnam, when we go back to Vietnam, they did a lot of cut on the money from our money. So when my grandparents and my aunts went to Saigon and get the money, it's only a part of the money came back to us, and they keep the rest. And French, I hate to say French people, it's just like communists, but they don't want us to be rich. They want us just have enough to eat, not more than enough, because if we have more than enough, we wouldn't work for them. And that's why they try to like control us. But before, whenever we left, because we went to the rubber industry to work for French people again. It's hard to make a living there. So my aunts decide not to stay there, because at that time my aunts and my grandparents found the family member in Bien Hoa, and they said, if we go to Bien Hoa with them, we can make better living. But in Vietnam, to be honest with you, wherever we go and we don't have a family and we don't have property, a land to cultivate, it's hard to make a living. So we left where we were at Bình Long. Yeah, we were at Bình Long after we were in the refugee camp. We went to Bình Long to work for the French people again. So we left Bình Long. We go to Bien Hoa, and I went back to the convent. My sister and my aunt went to work for the building. I mean, like building houses.
Architecture or construction.
Construction, yes. They work for the construction company, but they only make enough money, for the living. We don't have any extra. But my grandfather and my grandmother still sent me back to school and go to the convent to be a nun, so one day I can go to France. But I just don't want to stay in the convent anymore, because I just want to go back home, to either go to work, to make a living, to have my aunts out, my grandparents out, or to go back to school, with freedom, not to stay in the convent. But I didn't have a chance to go back to school. But I remember in Cambodia, when I was in the convent, my family the business doing really well. Before I went to the convent, my sister also went to the convent too. The Cambodian people always try to rob our family because we have business. I mean, my grandparents had a business, so they always try to rob us. But after I went to the convent, nobody come by and try to give my grandparents a hard time. And then until we go back to Vietnam, and when I was in Vietnam, when we were in Vietnam, I was in the convent, and my grandmother doing the business is doing very well. But after I left the convent, I couldn't remember because right after I left the convent, I got a job around my aunt's area in Vũng Tàu, and not too long after that, our family escaped to come over to United States. But on a couple days before, I remember I was standing on the second floor at my uncle's house. I saw a lot of people running around because the communists getting into South Vietnam. So ladies are carrying children on their carrier and food, and just and the military just running away for their life. I don't know where they went to, but our family got onto the boat and left the coast. And I just when I look back, I saw like a lot of things blow up behind us. So when I look back, I saw just fire. So we got into the international water, and we got on the boat. But luckily, my grandfather and I got on the boat. My aunt and my grandmother and two of my cousins were staying back. No, one, two, three of my cousins, my aunt and my grandmother left behind, so they didn't have a chance to get on the boat. But after a while, they got on the boat. They went to Philippines. My grandfather and I and my aunt's husband's family went to Guam. So every time that the buses coming to the camp, I remember my grandfather just going away, went around and looking for my grandmother, and my uncle is going around looking for my aunt, and every bus is stopping by. He just asks, "Do you see my wife? Do you see my mom?" And but there's no hope. But one day, my aunt was on the boat with her 3 children and my grandmother. But I lost my grandfather in the camp because he was I can't say that he got dementia, but he just got crazy. He went around looking for my grandmother and maybe for my aunt too. So I lost him one day, and my uncle blamed it on me that I didn't catch up with my grandfather. I didn't take care of my grandfather, but I went around, from tent to tent to looking for my grandfather, but I didn't find him. But I told everybody that I'm looking for my grandfather. So one day the lady said, maybe in the same day or the next day, she said, "Are you looking for your grandfather? Do you see? Is this your grandfather?" So she brought my grandfather's home. So I asked my grandfather, I said, "Where did you go?" She said, "Well, I saw some French people, so they give me food, they give me clothes. So I just hang out with them." I said, "They are not French people, they are American people." And so I found him. But the reason why he got I don't know if he got a mentor or not, but in Cambodia, before I went to the convent, like I told you, the Cambodian people try to rob us all the time, but they never get into the house. So one day, my grandfather got hit by the Cambodian man. He used to work with my grandfather, and one day I think I couldn't remember the whole story, but I think he just he drank too much alcohol. So my grandfather said, don't drink too much, just go home. And he got mad because he got some drink already. So he got mad. He turned around and got a log and hit my grandfather by the head to kill my grandfather, I think. But my aunt, because my grandfather was sitting in not in front of the store, in the store, but his in front, but inside of the store, his back toward to the door, so he didn't see the man came in with the log. So the man hit him with the log. But my aunt said, "Daddy, Daddy." So he turned around, and the man hit my grandfather by the head, and he just passed out. So he has to stay in the hospital for several months in a big city they call Nam Ban, with the French hospital. So, but he had to went there. He had to go there, stay in the hospital twice. At first time he came back home, and the second time he had to go back because he got a seizure. So he had to go back to stay in the hospital for a while again. But luckily that we have the money, my aunt had to go up there and take care of my grandfather, and just spent too much money, even though we got free care from the company, but from the spending money and renting money. Yeah, and when I left the convent, I went home, and my grandfather was chasing me one day. He said, "You need to go back to the convent." I said, "I'm not going back."
So whenever the war first started, what did you think about the Americans?
I was young. I don't think about too much about American, but we had to go back when we first came back to Vietnam. When we went back to work for the French people in Bình Long, every night we have to stay either under the ground, or we have to stay in the house, but around is like the sandbag around, just like a cage, but on up the ground cage. We go in there and avoid if anything happens. We got not hurting from that, but we also have two. We have underground cage, and we have up the ground too. So normally my sister, she stay in, it's hot, stay in there, to be safe. But and we have the under the ground one, but nobody went in there. But at night time it's just like both sides. Most of the night they are fighting, shooting at night time. The helicopter on top, and the communists is on the bottom. On the ground, and just shooting each other on both sides. On top shooting down, and on the bottom shooting each other. It doesn't happen every night, but almost every night. Yeah, yeah, it's scary. And when we moved to Bien Hoa, um, it's not a war zone in Bien Hoa. It's very peaceful, even though we have um, military camp there. Because I was young, so I don't remember if it's a Navy. No, it's not Navy. I think it might be Air Force or Army in Bien Hoa. So we kind of have a peace in Bien Hoa, but not in Bình Long. Bình Long is just like a war zone.
Um, so were you able to like was were you able to do normal things like celebrate that or maybe go to church?
Yeah, we go to church. We go to church every day. My grandmother in Vietnam, she goes to church every day, but not in Bình Long though. In war zone, we only go to church. We went to church maybe once a week on Sunday, but in Bien Hoa, we went. I mean, I didn't want to wake up early and go to church every morning, but my grandmother, went to church every morning, and it's just like a peace zone, in Bien Hoa. So we went to church, but after we left Bin Long in '72. They call summer fire. It means in Bin Long is just like it's a bad place, war and people. And at that time, I went to Bình Dương for school, a nun school up there. So in Bình Dương, we have a big refugee camp for the Bình Long people because communists start getting in to Bình Long, and the people have to move. A lot of people got lost their life. They said people died, and it's just like pile up the dead body, and they just make it's just like a trash, like in Vietnam, in United States. It's just like a trash, like a hole, a big hole, buried everybody. They have to use the big tractor to push all the dead body in a big hole and bury together. But I'm not talking good about my grandparents, because my grandparents always know about the French people, and some Vietnamese people, they might be already have a communist in their mind. They said one day, I remember one day they said, American people just came into our area and robbed. And my grandmother said, American people are so rich, how can they come over and rob us here? And to be honest with you, in Cambodia, there's no American. We don't have American in Cambodia, only French people. So when we came back to Vietnam, oh, to be honest with you, yeah, because in Bình Dương, I know American soldier. Yeah, because we used to, like I told you, we left Bình Dương. We left Bình Long because it's hard to make a living with the French people there, and to work on the rubber company. So my sister, my aunt, and my aunt got a job there. I got a job there, and my sister got a job there too. But we can't even make a living. 3 people is working, but we can't even make a living. So one day, my sister stayed back to work for the French people to have a house to live, like a housing, to have a house to live and to have rice because they give us rice too. So my aunt and I have to go to they call it American trash dumpster. So we got food from there. We got leftover canned food, vegetable, fruit that like passed to because like at the certain time in the base on the base they have new food. So the old food, I mean cases of food, I mean vegetable, they just dump it into the dumpster. So my aunt and I went to collect all those leftover food, even though the soup, like the piece of ham, a big piece of ham, is in the soup. We just, but I don't think I have a chance to get that because I was a little one. I was still have a little baby. I just can't do much. So I'm just a new learner to go there and try to get food and support the family. So I can't do much. But people that go before us, they got a lot of food and they support their family. So my aunt and I went, but we make a little bit more money than we work for the French company, for the rubber company. So one day my aunt said, no, we just can't live like this. We have to find the way, making better life. So that's why we moved to Binwa, and there my aunt, somebody like connect my aunt with her husband. So she got married, and her husband got like a little store, and she make food. It's just like now, she's still making bánh and sell it at the store, like making food to sell at the store, and she's good at that. So she make good money, and she supported her husband family, and support her family too. And she even brought her family over to United States. And when I first came over to, I mean, yeah, I knew I saw American soldier at the dumpster, but I never talked to them because I don't know how. In Cambodia we have to take French. I learned French. So when I went back to the convent, I had to take English, and I said, I don't like to take English. I want to go back to take French. But because I was in sixth grade at that time, I can't take French. Only ninth grader can take French and English. So I had to wait until I went to get to ninth grade to take French again. But I never have a chance to take French again. So I learned a little bit of English in the refugee camp. I know a little bit of English, so I just went around and asked, talk to the soldier. If I remember anything, I just say ice. Like if I need ice, I said ice. And I said if I need water, I said water. Not water, but water. And they give it to me, and I, because as a little girl, running around and begging the soldier for food, they just give it to me. So I get to know American better in the refugee camp.
So you're talking about making bun. Did you learn to cook in Vietnam or did you learn to cook here?
I learned to cook in Vietnam. Yeah, because I learned to cook in Cambodia too. because remember after my grandma, my aunt got caught from the voodoo, so I stay home with my sister. I cook. I just cook, just whatever I put on the stove, I cook. And then in Vietnam, I start cooking too, and just from seeing my aunt cooking, and I just start cooking. Not because we don't have recipe, we don't have recipe book, nobody teaching anybody. Just if you see me doing anything, I just copy it. Yeah.
Yes, nowadays you can just look it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do you feel about Vietnam right now? Do you think it's better or worse?
To me, I don't know what I'm thinking because from hearing the people, they came over, they marry, they got the husband here, and from not from my nun's friend though, because my nun's friend always want me to go back to see my nun's friend for the last time, and I really want to go back to Vietnam to see my nun's friend for the last time, because we have a lot of family in Vietnam, but I don't know any of them, maybe a few of them, but from hearing the people went back to Vietnam now is the maybe the financial is better, but the poor people maybe stay the same or got worse, because everybody tried to get the money, not to make the money, but to get the money. And to me, it maybe get worse. Financially, maybe better, but for the Christian and for the loving, maybe it got worse, because people try to cheating each other, making fake food. This is I don't know, but just from hearing from the people went back to Vietnam and visited, and they came back and told us the way. Like they said, it's made from China, but the food is it's just like imitate food. Maybe they just use the rubber to make noodle, and some people said that they make eggs, they make fake eggs. So, but I don't know. I don't have any experience with that. And but the thing that I heard that because our immune system is different from before, because we live here in America, and we live here too long. For maybe I live here 40 years, and I live in Vietnam, in Cambodia. Vietnam and Cambodia put together is only 17 years. But if I go back to Vietnam now a day, maybe I'm going to get sick, because my immune system doesn't work like used to anymore. So my husband, your grandfather said, when we visit in Vietnam, we either have to bring our own bottled water, we have to buy water there, or we have to drink coconut water all the time, and we can't eat any fresh vegetable. everything have to cook. And I heard that, in Vietnam now, people try to make a living. They just like um, fertilize the fruit, the vegetable, to grow very fast, to bring it to the store, to the market, to make money, like quick money. So to me, it's the worst. And before that, in Vietnam, we have, but it's still some places that it's still sincerely, we like there's a song they said, don't, I couldn't remember the word right now, but don't make the money to blind you. Don't let the money to blind you. So, but I wouldn't go back to Vietnam nowadays because from hearing the story, I'm just scared. People lying to us, and whatever we eat in Vietnam, I don't know what I'm eating. But this is, there's a lot of places that they sell like McDonald's, and they have Walmart there, I think, or American food there, but it's very expensive for tourists.
So you're talking about vegetables, so I thought about your garden. What did you get? How did you get into gardening?
I always grow. I have to grow something because when I in Cambodia, I was too young. I was in the convent, so I didn't have a chance to get into any seeds. But in Vietnam, I started digging up soil. And so on this side in Vietnam, like a house from wall to wall, we hardly have any because it's a peace village, a peaceful village. So we have no war, we have no shooting. So we just like everybody try to get into that village to live. So we have no room for vegetable to grow or fruit to grow. So one day I dug up it's just a little bit of soil on the side of the house. I grow my flower, and so it can grow pretty. My grandmother dug it up, dug my flower up, so she put her vegetable down. And in front of our house, we have to jackfruit tree. My grandfather ate the fruit and he put the seeds on the ground. So he grew two jackfruit tree in the front. But we didn't have a chance to eat any of them. And and when we come to United States, I just love vegetable. I love fruit. I like to grow fruit tree and vegetable and flowers. And at first, I grow vegetable only for the family. But after I got laid off, I stay home and take care of my daughter, my baby, Quinan, and my grandson Jacob. And so my garden grow bigger and bigger, and I don't know what to do with my vegetables, so I bring it to the store and trade food.
So whenever you came to America and everything, you started to settle down, or yeah, when did you start to settle down, like as a citizen?
Well, I came over to the United States when I was 17, and because in Vietnam, 16 years old girl, if you don't get a family, you don't have a family yet, it means you're going to be single maybe for the rest of your life. So I just keep counting, when I'm going to get And then when I'm 17, I came over United States. I started looking for a husband, and I got married when I was 19. And so I said, okay, I'm settled down now. But the marriage didn't work the way that I wanted to. So I have kids, and I just try to work it out sometime. But sometimes I said, no, this marriage doesn't work. But since I'm Catholic, I can't divorce, because if I divorce, I'm going to go hell. But it's just time went by, and it just got worse and worse. So I said, one day, my mind doesn't think about hell anymore. So I said, okay, I just can't take this anymore, and I just left. I left my home and went on the street, maybe a new home. Yeah, and now I'm getting older. I just maybe now I'm settled down. I'm getting older now. I just leave it up to God. God, I help me to carry the cross with you. Before, when I was young, I didn't pray to God that help me to carry the cross with you. But now, as I grow older, I said, God, as I ask God, to help me to carry the cross with Him, and I just pray more. Now, I pray more. Before, I just mad more. But now I just communicate with God more than I used to. So life is getting better. I just ignore everything around me, and take care of my life, my family, and because I think now I'm happier, because I told my ex-husband that I don't really want to have a real job. I just wanted to get a volunteer job, so I can go to work whenever and wherever. But I didn't have a chance to get that job, and I didn't know what kind of job was that. But now I got my garden. I got a translator job. I mean, I have to say it's a job. I translated for people, take people to the doctor. Maybe I have a chance, to bring God to them too, because most of them I help them. They are Buddhists, so I explain God. I bring God to them. I talk about God to them. So maybe it's just time that God give it to me, that I have a chance to bring God to them, and to get to do what I wanted to do. I mean, I don't make much money, but I got by, and my children got older now, and here and there they help me out. So I just being happy with my volunteer work. I mean, I don't charge people a lot, like other people they charge. I charge sometimes. I say, okay, I set up the price for them, but I end up reduce the price for them. But I'm happy. I make a little money.
So whenever you first came over, did you see any issues with like the country itself, like America itself?
Yeah, because I have accent. I remember I went to the bank one day, and I said something, and said, what? And I got mad and said, wait until you come to Vietnam and you can and say something and the Vietnamese people don't understand you, and you will find out how I feel now. So I told your grandfather, and your grandfather said, why don't you stay home? Don't go anywhere and argue with the people. And then one day I brought my daughter to the hospital to have x-ray. At that time we don't have insurance. We don't have, just that we don't have insurance, and but they didn't know that we have Medicaid or not. And so they treat us a little different. I can't say that mean to me at that time, I have to say mean, but I think they just treat us a little different with my daughter. And they said, hold her hand up, or her hand have to be up so they can do the x-ray. So because I stay up all night with my daughter already, and but she keep coughing, so I don't know what's wrong with her. And I brought her to the hospital and have a x-ray. So the way they talked to me, I got offended. So I got mad. I said, we are not on welfare. We don't have welfare. Why are you treating us like that? So everybody got scared. So they have to take the examiner out so they replace somebody else, to have my daughter's x-ray. And they apologized to me that, he didn't mean to be like that. I said, I don't care. Because my daughter is sick and they are so mean, and we're not on welfare. But I didn't tell your grandfather, what happened in the hospital. So I just keep it to myself. But I went to work, and I have a lot of friends at work, and they were very nice to me, and they teach me English, and I just learned it from talking to them, and I learned a lot. But my very first job, that's my second job. I work at the sewing factory, and one day, it's in the cafeteria or in the lunchroom, people, ladies start talking bad about somebody else. So because at that time I learned English already. I understand English, not a lot already, but I can understand what they are saying. So they were talking about somebody else, like gossip. I tried to listen, and I said, why? They are talking bad about the people. So I went to other American lady. I said, why are they talking bad about other people? I thought American people were nice people, never talk bad about anybody. I said, okay, American people are human too. Human being too. They're not a saint. They still talking bad about people. And then in the refugee camp in Guam, one day I woke up and they said, there's a military stealing food from the kitchen. I said, don't say that. American people don't steal. So to me, when I first came over to United States, to me, American people are perfect people. They don't do bad things. Yeah.
So overall, you feel like you're a lot happier here than back there?
Do you mean back then?
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, I think so, because I get to do what I wanted to do, and American people, can't go behind me and talk bad about me, about my accent. I mean, I have to say that my English is not that bad anymore, so people don't talk bad about me anymore. So I just do whatever, and my neighbors. I love my neighbor, even though I don't talk to them. But I know that I have neighbor, and so I love them. I don't know if they like me or not, but I love to have neighbor. I can't live in the country because when I was in Vietnam, the nun put me. I mean, my nun. She's just like a sponsor to me. So I was behind when I went back to Vietnam to go to school. I was behind, so she took me up to the country where she was to teach me to skip grade so I can catch up with my grade with my age. And I said, I have to have neighbor because I can't live in a place like miles to have a house. I have to have neighbor. I mean neighbor, next door neighbor, not miles neighbor. So I left. I said I can't live without people. I have to have people. So I didn't stay up there too long. I rather stay in the same grade than and have a higher grade and live without people. So I mean, I have to say that I'm happier now. I don't have much friend. Really, I don't have many friends. I don't have any friend at all. But I talk to the people whoever wants to talk to me, and I pray most of the time. Whenever I have time, I just say rosary, and I say prayer for my family, for my kids, and for my people, my neighbor, for American, and for my my godchildren and the people that I'm helping, my clients. I pray for everybody. So my mind is just like busy all the time, and my physical too is like I'm busy all the time. If I don't stay inside with my daughter, my daughter's sleeping, I'm staying outside. Go outside.
Okay, well, do you think it's time to wrap it up?
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's nice talking to you.